at their offices. It was much more difficult when I was going through the early phases of my career and my studies in particular, 10 to 15 years ago. It was much, much more difficult to get some of this information online. Job postings were still filled with jargon and every career site was just stock photos if there was a photo at all. I would have loved to have had access to some of the rich resources that are available. But I think ultimately the more you can talk to people, either it's face to face or watch video, read content about different career paths, the more you'll be exposed to all that's out there. And the more also that if you do decide to move in a certain direction, you'll have access to the words, the vernacular, the kind of day-to-day lingo of that career field, which is also really helpful in getting hired within it.
I think, what you just said about shadowing people at their offices is such a great idea. Like, what would be your advice for somebody listening right now to take action on that? And, what would you say to them if they were trying to shadow someone at office? How would they go about doing that?
I would say, firstly, that it's a good thing to ask. It's okay if someone says no or they don't respond to you. That's part of it. That's okay. I would identify 2 to 3 people that perhaps are in a position where you'd be interested in learning more. And then I would craft a personalized email to each one. And we have some really good templates on themuse.com. But at a high level, it would be something like, dear so-and-so, I wanted to write you today because, I know that you're an XYZ manager at Acme Corporation, and I'm very interested in starting my career in, let's say, marketing. I was hoping that there might be an opportunity to shadow you at work for an hour or two or learn more about what careers in marketing are like at your company. And then having a sentence or two about yourself. I'm a student at XYZ, or I have this background. This is why I care. The more you can show somebody that you're willing to put in the time and the effort, most people do want to help, but in many cases, they have been burned in the past because they've helped people who have not necessarily valued the time that they've given, or they're simply very, very busy. So if you can really show them why specifically you're asking them and why it is that you will really benefit from this opportunity. Again, some people are never going to say yes. That's okay. That's why I recommend asking more than one person. But ultimately, you often will find that people are really willing to go out on a limb and help you out.
Have you let people shadow you?
I have.
What made you say yes?
For me, it was someone that had built a relationship with me over some time. So it wasn't just the first ask. Although I think earlier in my career, I could have been open to someone who had made it their first ask. In this case, it was an individual who had reached out to me for advice on several occasions. She had been incredibly thoughtful about the questions she asked. She was always respectful of my time. And she always made me feel like she was immediately able to learn and grow and implement some of the things that I had suggested in the past. And so after we established that relationship, when she asked to come in and shadow me in the office, it felt like an okay next step to say yes to.
And how often are you personally giving career advice to people? I know obviously the Muse helps millions of people, but how often are you, one-on-one helping people?
Funny you ask that. I didn't start the Muse because I have all the answers. I started it because I needed them. So to some extent, I never wanted to be the person sitting behind the desk and giving people advice. In fact, unless somebody is interested in entrepreneurship, which is a topic that I know a lot about, I often suggest that they speak to one of our career coaches or they read content on the Muse because we deliberately source from some of the best experts in the world on all of these different topics. I will say I do end up giving a fair amount of career advice regardless, but it's often in the context of, I mentor a number of up and coming entrepreneurs. I particularly try and dedicate my time to entrepreneurs from diverse backgrounds if I can. And so it's just helping open doors for all sorts of different types of people because I really believe that the technology space is going to benefit from more diversity and more inclusion. And then obviously within the company, I will always make time if somebody, who works at the Muse wants to chat. But again, I think that's also somewhat difficult because your career is so personal. And I never feel like I can tell somebody what they must or should do, just like it's hard for someone else to tell me what we should do. The best you can do is help give people a sense of what's possible and what are some of the strategies or tactics they might take to help them achieve their goals.
Why do you think career coaching may still be taboo? Like obviously LeBron James has a coach and Roger Federer has a coach, so why shouldn't everyone else have a coach? But do you think career coaching is still a little bit taboo or people are afraid to talk about that stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's still a lot of things that hold people back from fully leveraging career coaching. And, I think it's too bad. So firstly, I'll say there are a lot of mediocre career coaches